Yeah, it's fancy, isn't it? Are you impressed?
Very
good. Very good.
Okay, so we're gonna have a bit of back and forth on this, right? Because every approach, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna ask if you actually understand it, and if there's any questions as you go along. Because there is so much information with this. If I just go through it, and just ask at the end, you're probably gonna forget half of it or what you wanted to ask. So we'll just take it step by step. But just to give you an overview, this is a Christmas survival guide, which is the opposite of what we need to do. We don't need to survive Christmas. It's the best time of the year in my eyes. I absolutely love it. All the food, all the, the way that everyone's so much happier, I feel. And obviously we're all buying each other presents as well. So there's a lot of bonuses to Christmas. But yeah, when it comes to physique development and where we want to go, a lot of us are still focused on losing fat at this point. So we need to be aware of calories. And I'll talk you through absolutely everything on this presentation. A lot of it is going to be, oh my God, my voice is gone. A lot of it is going to be talking about the things we've already been over on the previous team talks as well. But yeah, basically it's going to give you different approaches depending on the type of events or social events you've got coming up. Even if that means going away on a week's holiday, or whatever it is you've got going on this Christmas, whether it's a night out, a meal out, multiple meals out throughout the week, you're going to know what to do. So this is going to cover absolutely everything. Okay, so first of all, going back over the basics, the energy balance equation. First law of thermodynamics, for those of you that weren't on this call with us before, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Seb made it in. I can't believe he's made it in. He's only had like 2 hours sleep. But yeah, so calories in versus calories out, that's all it comes down to. It just, the approaches that we're going to actually give you is going to show you how to actually manage that over a longer period of time with whatever you have coming up or with whatever's happened in the past. So again, a fancy little presentation, right? I put a lot of effort into this, as you can see. But this is going on the energy balance equation, just continued again. We did touch on this before, talking about what actually goes in, which is protein, carbs, fats, and alcohol, which is alcohol will be a lot higher with a lot of you over the Christmas period. And then calories out, we talked about BMR and eat, TEF, sorry. If you want to look into that, I will give you the link to the team talk on that, because that's a full-on presentation in itself to describe that. So as we said, for those of you that don't know what calories are, it's simply a measurement of energy, so we know that. But all you need to worry about is just the calorie itself. You don't actually need to worry about what makes it up. This is just a bit more information for you. I love that picture of Santa as well. So identify yourself first. So before we move into the different approaches that we've got available, you have to figure out where you are on the scale. So a lot of you are just lifestyle clients, is what you would be classed as, in terms of you haven't got an extreme goal or an extreme deadline coming up. And you're not technically an athlete where nothing else matters but your success or your performance, right? The majority of you don't fall into the athlete or extreme goal category. So we don't need to worry about that. I'll give you an example of that though. For example, Rory, who I work with, has got a bodybuilding competition coming up in March. Therefore, his prep will be starting prior to Christmas. And we've had the conversation already where he isn't going to be able to have the freedom to just go for meals out, nights out whenever he wants, because it's going to sabotage his preparation for competition, making him not as good as he possibly could be. So that's the only time you'd ever put yourself in that category. Now, the majority of us fall into the other two. So we're either lifestyle, but we're trying to gain muscle, or we're lifestyle, but we're trying to lose fat still over the Christmas period. If you fall into this category, if you're going through a fat loss phase, you will have less of an allowance to play with, meaning more awareness will be needed to control and enjoy this phase. It's all still possible, and all the approaches will help you. But it is going to be a little bit more difficult, and it's going to require a little bit more management. Now, if you're a lifestyle client and you're in a muscle gain phase, this is the easiest phase to manage during this period, because you're lifestyle, so you're here to enjoy anyway. You're just here to get in better shape over time, and right now you're going through a phase where you can eat more anyway. You already have a surplus of calories in place with a big allowance to play with, so the protocols will make this even easier for you, so you can really enjoy stress-free. And obviously we discussed the athlete already. So do you all know where you kind of sit on this sort of scale?
Yeah.
Cool. So once you identify yourself there, everything else becomes a lot easier. So managing, I can't even see that, management. So we've got macro and micro management. So we talked before about, microcycles, mesocycles and stuff like that. This is the same sort of terminology that we use here. So macro management is pre-planning in advance. That's what we use as our term to describe it, because we are looking in advance over a longer period of time. And we're kind of picking when we know, for example, Christmas Day is a write-off. You know that you're going to be going for, a works meal out or a works night out. So you can plan these things in advance at the start of December, and they're coming up. Okay, so macro pre-planning. If you're entering the month knowing you have X amount of events coming up, it's always better to pre-plan and factor these nights out or meals out in advance. Using the free meal method to build up a calorie allowance bank in advance, allowing you to enjoy even more with no cleanup needed at the end. So you're basically sacrificing a little bit of your calories short term to enjoy the events and not have to punish yourself or make up for it long term. Micromanagement is kind of the opposite, because what will happen is, for example, if someone just springs an idea on you over Christmas where you're like, oh, let's go out and let's do this, or this event is coming up, let's just do this, and it's like tomorrow or today, for example, you just fancy it, then I would encourage that. If you are in that lifestyle bracket and you want to do something, you want to have fun, do it. We will sort it out later on. We will clean up from the past, pretty much. So this is the management type we are forced to use when events are sprung on us last minute. And by sprung on us, I mean you still obviously decide to do it, but if you want to do it, then I'm all for that, Like I said, it depends on where you fall in the identification bracket. So if you're a lifestyle client, we encourage you to never miss out on socials that you actually want to attend. That's key, because if you feel like you're just doing it for the sake of it, please don't do it. And if you're going through a fat loss phase and you really don't need to go, or you're not really sure if you want to go, then it's probably best not to go. So yeah, it does depend on the situation you're in and where you identify. We can always micromanage this, the past, by changing our actions of the future to clean up the past. So hopefully that would make sense, because we're going to use those terms going forward with each approach. So the other two sort of things we need to talk about is your mindset and your actions, because each approach that we use and we set out will each have a title, so you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. But we will talk about your mindset going into that approach and the actions you actually take. So mindset is accepting your decision, pretty much. That's what it all comes down to, is being aware of the approach, being aware of the actions that you have to take, and accepting that so that you can enjoy things. That kind of removes the guilt. It allows you to actually enjoy as well. So we're about to take you through a ton of different approaches, and there is quite a lot. And you will always choose one of these, even if that means not making a decision at all. Technically that is a decision. Whatever you choose, simply accepting that decision will allow you to enjoy the moment even more and be present in the moment. The second thing is the action. So the changes you actually make to the plan. Technically that's what it is, that if you're changing your actions, you're changing the plan. So the action simply means the changes we actually make to our original plan to put the chosen approach in place. This will come down to the changes in expenditure, such as cardio steps training, and of course the nutritional adjustments, which could be macro or meal guide based. So for most of you, I tend to do both anyway. So we'll move on to the first one. I think I'm gonna have to move this over there. There we go. So the first approach is the free meal approach, which you're all already familiar with. It was the first team talk we did. And it was kind of giving you a little bit of an idea of how free meals work. And I dived deep into it on that team talk and explained exactly what would happen on different scenarios with what you would do. So if you want to look deeper into this approach and you weren't on that call, then I'd actually go back to that, and I can send you the link for that as well, so you can watch that full video. So identity, so who can use this? Lifestyle or athlete, because athletes need to have fun too, and they need that time to kind of take away from the stress of the plan sometimes. It's not optimal when close to competition, but in off season especially, this approach is used very commonly. The management type is technically macro, because we plan it in advance. Even if it's a week in advance, it will be planned. The mindset going into this, you have already pre-planned and factored these calories into your plan. It is actually on plan now for you to consume a larger amount of calories on your day of your event. So if you don't, you're actually breaking the plan and under eating throughout the week, which isn't optimal either. The action, So the action we're actually going to do use to take place here is cutting back calories technically over the course of the usual days by the amount that the result in the allowance you need. So if that makes sense, I don't even know if that sentence made sense. So basically what I mean is, for example, a free meal need of 1,500 calories would require 6 days of restriction by 250 calories each. So you can see how easily we can cut back, a meal or even a full day of eating by 250 calories. Very easy to do. If you're having 5 meals a day, you reduce each meal by 50 calories. You don't even notice it's gone, right? Over 6 days, you may notice you get a little bit more hungry, but you now have a bank of 1,500 calories to add on top of that day. So if you were eating 2,000 calories every day, on that 7th day, when you have the free meal, you'll actually have 3,500 available. So all of a sudden it becomes a very nice day and you can do what you want with it. Why would we use this approach? We would use this approach for people that like to go out on a regular occasion, so weekly. Pre-planning this into the plan will allow us to accurately track and manage progress, as well as giving the client something to look forward to on a regular basis. A chance to enjoy good food or drink, knowing it's technically included in your plan. It would actually be breaking the plan if you do not consume the free meal. So another thing I want to add to this is it doesn't have to be one meal, right? Because we're talking about calories here. The reality of, let's say a female, for example, a small female, wanting to have 3,500 calories on one day is rare, unless they're an absolute machine and they love eating. So it's not really realistic in that sense, but it shows you the capabilities that you can just spread that over 2 days. So now you've got maybe 750 calories on 2 different occasions where you can have 2 events out per week. And this depends on the person again. Like if someone or a large male, for example, who trains a lot and they're eating, 4,000 calories a day, it's very easy for them to cut back 1,000 calories every single day and eat 3,000. Yeah. And then over a 6-day period, they've just built up 6,000 calories in their bank. And if they can spread that over 3 days, they can have 3 events in 1 week. Technically, that is possible. And this is why it's important to know that over Christmas. It's not something I recommend all the time, because you're just going to see, peaks and troughs in the amount of calories you're consuming. There's not going to be consistency there. You're not really going to feel great every single day. But it does work, and that type of management does work when you pre-plan in advance. So just to give you a better idea with a graph and a picture of me, we've got the free meal approach and the calorie allowances, right? So we got the baseline here, that's maintenance, the orange line. The green line would be a deficit and the red line would be a surplus. So as you can see, where ideally we would put the deficit, this is where we would normally put it. As you've seen before, we cut that back, like I said, by a small amount, so it adds up. So all of this gap here every single day will be totaled up. And then on that day, you have the allowance to go way above even a surplus, and you'll be absolutely fine throughout the week. So does that make sense? Because we've been over this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you happy that if you've got, say, maybe 2 nights out per week, you kind of know what you would need to do? I mean, most of us, we work together anyway, so we'd be doing this together. But if there's any of you going off on your own, would you have an idea of what to do?
Yeah, just cut back on calories throughout the week, so then you can obviously enjoy yourself on the weekend.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do, right, is genuinely estimate how many calories you're going to go over by. And I don't want you to be thinking of this on the night out then itself, but say now, right, I'm probably going to need, how many pints am I going to drink? 10 to 15, right? So you're gonna obviously calculate that in advance and then find out how you can fit that in to your plan throughout the week. So because that is a reality for some people. So anyway, moving on to the next one then. Sorry about that. My voice is bad today. The holiday approach. Okay, this is a fun one. So a few of you would have been sent this and we would have discussed this before, because obviously you would have been on holiday throughout the period with us, and we've got videos on this breaking it down even further again. So if you want them, please ask them for me and I'll sort it out. Identity, ideally lifestyle, but if a competitor is away, you'd probably just tell them to chill out anyway. But realistically, if they're in prep, you wouldn't want them going on holiday. So it's one of those things. But most of us anyway, we're in that lifestyle bracket, so we don't need to worry about that. This is technically micromanagement because you're doing it on a daily basis. Even though you're aware you're going away on holiday, You don't really want to change anything leading up to it. You want to just kind of keep going as you are. And then when you go on holiday, accept that you're on holiday, and just accept this approach. This works really, really, really well. You don't have to track anything. You don't have to measure anything. You don't have to weigh any food. You're on holiday, literally chilling. You're just using a bit of your brain, knowing this approach works, and it just allows you to enjoy everything as you normally would. So the mindset, you're managing on a daily basis, accepting you are going to be a little bit more restricted throughout the day to allow for more calories later on. You have something to look forward to every single night, pretty much. So the way we work this, right, is it's very similar to the free meal approach, but on a daily basis. So instead of actually doing it over a week, you're doing it every day. You're restricting yourself throughout the day to enjoy later on in the day. So the action for this, if I move that up there again, the action, this is when we restrict carbs or calories throughout the day and just focus on protein veg. Just to let you know, the reason I've said carbs, right, is because if you're on an all-inclusive holiday, so you're not even ordering off a menu, you're just going up and taking what you want. The easiest thing to say to people is most people have 3 meals on an all-inclusive holiday. So you have breakfast, lunch, dinner. The first 2 meals, if you say to that person, number one, they're going to be out in the sun all day, or they're going to be with their top off, so they want to feel good, right? The last thing you want is to feel bloated when you've got to be, in a bikini or in some swimming shorts. So what I say to people is, forget about the food for the first 2 meals, as in, of course you want to enjoy it, but don't make the holiday all about the food, because some people go away and they just want to eat everything in sight, right? So that's a red flag in itself. You need to fix something back home if that's the reason why you're going on holiday. But when you go on holiday, so the first 2 meals, restrict carbs because in the first 2 meals, because if it's cooked by a chef or a restaurant, it's more than likely going to have a lot more calories in each food than you probably think, simply because the way they cook it to taste good. There's a lot more oils involved, a lot more fats involved. So yeah, even like a protein and veg meal will be higher in calories than you probably think. So stick the first 2 meals to leaving carbs out, because that's just going to have excess calories you don't even need, because you're getting calories in anyway. And then the last meal, then you'll know you have a bank of allowance to actually just enjoy, whether it's drinks, whether it's actually food or good food and lots of carbs. You know that you'll be pretty good then throughout the day. So why would we use this approach? We would usually use this approach for anyone on holiday, especially if it's all inclusive. This allows the first 2 meals of the day, breakfast and lunch, to be mainly protein and veg. This actually allows the client to enjoy the day more, focusing less on the food, actually feeling great with their top off. In the night, this is where people usually end up going for meals and drinks out. Now, with this approach, they have the bank of calories built up to do that guilt-free. This is a great approach for the days surrounding Christmas as well. So if you're having a few days around Christmas where you don't want to be tracking, you want a bit of a break from all of the focus on your fitness, on your health, on the way you look, then just forget about tracking food for a bit and just use this approach where you literally don't even have to track food. You just are aware of what you put on your plate through the day and only eat when you're hungry and to your content, don't go overboard. So does that approach make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
You like the sound of that approach?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on. The write-off approach, right? This has happened to us all, and I'm sure without you even telling me, you've probably all used this approach whilst we've worked together, right? So the write-off approach, it's got to be for lifestyle, because if you're a competitor doing this, it's not good. And it's micromanagement, because it's literally on the day you've made that decision and you're writing it off. It's just, this day is done. And yeah, you're just making that decision. So the mindset behind this is you're accepting that that day is going to be a complete write-off. For example, Christmas Day, perfect example. So you're giving yourself permission to enjoy it guilt-free, because you've made the decision. This is the approach I'm taking. I want to enjoy. I don't care. I'm going to eat what I want. All right. You can enjoy it stress-free, knowing that there won't be any major punishment due to you taking and accepting this approach. Okay. So most people, they worry because they think, oh my God, I'm binging now. I'm eating all this. I'm going to have to get up tomorrow morning, do loads of cardio to make up for it. Use this approach, right? And I'll show you how we manage it now, and just accept it and enjoy it, please. Because if you've made that decision, at least enjoy it. Because there's so many people I know, and I've done it myself in the past, where I'm eating stuff that I'm feeling guilty for as I'm eating it, but I'm still eating it. right? And it's not a good place to be, because you're not even enjoying, and then you are harming yourself later on down the line. This can actually lead to eating disorders and a whole rabbit hole we don't even want to go down. So your mindset is the most important thing with this, and actually accepting the fact that you're going to enjoy this food. It's not the best choice of food, but you want it anyway. You're having it. Just accept you're using a write-off approach, and you're going to take care of it in future. So the action we take, you do not track anything that day. Or if you decide to do this from, say, 8 o'clock onwards in the night, you've made that decision, then don't track. Okay. You simply enjoy it for what it is, and you consume food and drink to satisfy your needs. Micromanagement will take care of this over the following days, or the days to follow, and changes to the plan based on the actual result. Okay, so that's the important part. The actual result is how we will respond to it. It won't be based off on the night when you make the decision of what we think is going to happen. It's what actually does happen. We just go off like the actual facts. Okay. Why would we use this approach? We would use this approach on Christmas Day. Even when you know the event is coming up in advance, you just want to enjoy it anyway without worrying or feeling guilty. Events that we know are coming up can be macro managed, but micromanagement will always be needed to take care of the actual result itself, because even when you plan in advance, like you do with a free meal, if it goes way out of hand, right, or way over the allowance we've given ourselves, micromanagement is always what we use anyway. That's why we have check-ins every single week. Okay, so we are taking the actual facts that you send us, and then we're making a decision based off that. So it's always evidence-based. There will never be extreme changes or punishment needed for a lifestyle client. That's one thing we need to get rid of, that thought immediately. We'll always try and solve things over a longer period of time, because there's no rush. Why is there a rush to do it over the next day and get back to where you were? It doesn't make any sense. So we do it over the long term so that we don't create a binge restrict cycle. We have an approach available on the following slides to take care of the festive period after it's over anyway, or if this happens any other time throughout the year, it's the same approach. For usual write-off approaches, the data will be collected and we will adjust the plan accordingly. So basically, in simple terms, you decide that you are writing that off. You're just going to enjoy it for what it is. And then you're just going to take the actual data that over the next 2 days, maybe not the next day, because you may feel a bit guilty at that point. So we don't want to, encourage that. So maybe 2 days later, you just accept where you are, you start again, you get back on plan. And then once you've got back on plan, maybe the day after that, that's when you kind of go, right, this is where I am now. What do I need to do going forward? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. But Deacon?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. As long as that does make sense generally, because the biggest thing with this approach is the psychology behind it. So as long as you're okay to take that approach, are you happy? Would you use that like on Christmas?
Definitely.
Yeah. We're all writing it up. Okay.
Christmas Day, especially Christmas dinner.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? You want to enjoy these things without thinking, oh, this is going to mess me up. It's not. The facts are the facts. We want to enjoy the day. This is part of life. We move forward the next couple of days. We take where we are. We just take the facts for what it is. This is where I am right now, accept it, and then we move forward again. So otherwise, we're never going to enjoy anything in life. It's just not going to be possible. So moving on to the next one. The night out approach. How many of you in your drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only on special occasions.
Yeah, well, that's fine, because this would be considered a special occasion anyway. This is an approach you can take in that sort of circumstance. I personally don't drink very much, very often. Like it literally will be average once every couple of months, if that. But like I said, depends on if there's a special occasion, and you feel like you want to go out, you feel like you want to drink. It always comes down to that. Don't be forced into it. If you generally do decide you want to drink, then this is a good approach to take. Okay, so again, lifestyle wouldn't really encourage this for an athlete, but if they do decide to do it, it's the same approach. This is micromanagement again, because we will respond based off the results, so it's going to be evidence based again. So the mindset behind this: accept that you've just made the decision to drink alcohol. It's a dangerous topic. Just accepting the fact that you've made that choice alone will allow you to switch off and enjoy it even more. The thing I cannot stand here in the most, right, is when we all know how we feel when we're drunk, right? Your kind of morals and everything just goes out the window. You just want to enjoy. You want to have a laugh. You don't want to be thinking about what calories in a drink, because that's just not going to make your mood very good. Like if you realize how many calories is in alcohol, you're really not going to have a good time. So my advice would be, and this is the opposite to what you'd expect, if you've made the decision to go out and drink alcohol, right, and you're going on a night out where there's going to be, you know, in our culture, especially in the UK, more alcohol involved than what we probably should have, then I would just stop worrying about calories, consume it as you normally would, and then just be aware of the repercussions of how much you drink the next day, because the more you drink, the more chance you're going to have a stinking hangover, and that's going to really make it hard for you to make wise choices the next day. That's the reality of it. It's not the night itself that does the damage, it's the days to follow. We know that alcohol has a very negative impact on your ability to build muscle anyway. So if you're trying to do that, just accept that the next week is almost going to be, well, a lack of progression, especially in the gym, maybe even some regression in terms of your lifts going down because you're not going to feel great. So yeah, just accepting that, again, will allow you to enjoy more, but you've got to make that decision. And if you make that decision, you might as well enjoy it. So the action we actually take, right, is different in terms of a calorie approach. So in terms of a calorie approach, I wouldn't go with the free meal option here or the holiday approach. Okay, so we continue the plan on the day as normal. So you continue your normal plan. I don't want you cutting back calories. The meeting's ending in 10 minutes. I'm going to try and rush this now. Sorry. No restricting calories to allow more freedom. It's a spelling error there. On the night out. When alcohol is involved, we recommend treating the day as normal, similar to the write-off approach. We deal with the results on the following day. Now, why would we use this approach? This approach is best when alcohol is involved, simply because it's not just a case of balancing energy or calories anymore. We're also balancing alcohol, which also has calories as well. A lot of people want to use the holiday approach here. They want to restrict themselves during the day, which will lead to getting in a much worse state later on in the night. Does that make sense? Because if we cut back on our food during the day, have you ever had a drink when you haven't eaten much all day? Like,
yes.
I think we all know how that ends up. So yeah, we definitely don't want to do that. We want to continue the plan as normal. If you're in a dieting phase or restricted phase anyway, you're literally going to feel the effects of alcohol quicker anyway. Your body's more responsive. So make sure you at least have your food, because if you don't, you're going to be in a seriously bad way. And cravings will become huge when you are drunk anyway. So if you've restricted yourself all day just to save the calories, I guarantee you, when you get a little bit tipsy, you'll be eating something, right? I'm not going to specify what that is, but yeah, you'll be eating something. So the more likely you're going to have a worse hangover due to the lack of food, and the next day you're more than likely going to eat more foods that you're not going to like, or it's not going to serve you well in the long term. So accept that you've chosen to drink, and you will feel at least a little, accept that you have chosen to drink, and you will feel at least a little hungover, but make a promise to get up the next day and get straight back on routine. Then micromanage the following week based off the results. So same approach then at the back end to the write-off approach, where you just take the facts for what it is over the next couple of days, and then you adjust a plan accordingly going forward. So is that a fair approach to a night out, because we're accepting that we're going out? Do you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I need to pay for a longer Zoom session is what I do. I'm too tight. The bounce back approach. Okay, so this is the approach now that we would use following on from the festive period. So lifestyle and athlete, and this can be used as well coming off the back of a holiday or anything like that where we've had a break, right? Now, I wouldn't recommend this to everyone, and it does depend on your circumstances, and it does depend on the facts as well, because if you go through the period using the approaches and they work perfectly, but and by perfectly I mean it doesn't harm your progress at all. If anything, you continue to progress, which is possible. If that's not the case, and maybe you have put yourself back a little bit despite using the approaches, then the bounce back approach is something I would then put in place. Okay, so the mindset with this is you have just used one or many of the approaches over the previous slides. Now you need to take the feedback on board and from your body and take the necessary action. So the action would be with this The bounce back approach usually means creating a slight deficit for 7 to 10 days to shift all excess water weight bloat with a little fat loss as well, so you feel great again. Dependent on your body's reaction and results from the approaches used, you will need to make direct changes to your nutrition training to suit your goal and deadline in place. So for those of you, again, depends on your identity. If you're in a fat loss phase, muscle gaining phase, will depend on how serious you need to take this bounce back approach. But yeah, basically it just means we're taking the data. If we feel we have not made as much progress as we wanted to, we can take this action over a short period of time, very similar to a mini cut, where we just clean ourselves up, basically, a lack of a better term, just clean up. Why would we use this approach? A perfect example for this would be diving straight into a calorie deficit or cleanup phase. Yeah, but basically on the back of the festive period. So hopefully that is probably something that we wouldn't have to use, but more than likely quite a lot of us would benefit from using this maybe the first week of January, and then it kind of kickstarts us then, and we know exactly where we're going with it. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. To be fair, like instead of punishing ourselves with like, you know, massive amounts of cardio, this is more of like a relaxed approach over like 7-10 days, shifts the water weight, shifts the bloat. You know what the feeling is coming back from holiday anyway. We just want to kind of tidy up a little bit without feeling like we're going, you know, straight back into the depths of a prep or anything like that. We just want to kind of tidy up, feel good again. That's what it's all about, just getting good nutrition back into ourselves, because we would have ate a lot of what should we say, not so good foods. But yeah, that's basically it. That's what the approaches I would use. Is there any other scenario you can think of that I haven't really covered there? Do you think we've covered it all?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good
Nothing
enough.
springs to mind.
Is there anything that comes to mind, like any sort of events that you're thinking of that I haven't covered or talked about there? I don't know what this guy's doing, but yeah, I'll take that, because if we've covered everything there, so with all these approaches, if you're happy with that, then I'm happy to let you all run with that. And obviously we're going to work together throughout this phase anyway. So if you do, you know, need to actually bring these up now or ask me, I've got, you know, 2 events next week, what do I do? How do we do it? Then we can obviously set that up for you anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think these approaches will help you a lot.
Thank you.
No problem. Just give me a thumbs up or give me a yes if you felt you benefited from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Thank you. Okay, brilliant. As always, send in your request for next week. This is a big one because obviously a lot of people have requested this, so I know lots are going to be watching this, but thank you for attending. And if there's anything you need,